Barry. You know what? I actually smoked crack with Marion Barry. I swear to God.
Jesus.
I was in Georgetown, and he used to go to a place right next to the guards. And I was a sophomore, I guess. There was a junior when that happened, but he used to come there and drink, like, late. And I would be in there. And he'd go to the bathroom. But anyway.
That's the son of the President of the United States talking about smoking crack with the mayor of Washington, D.C. Mayor Marion Barry. I miss Marion Barry. I voted for him repeatedly. I met him a number of times. I have great pictures of myself with Marion Barry. Actually, after he was released from prison, the pictures, he flipped me off once too, Marion Barry. Well, I was in a crowd of people that he was flipping off in Adams Morgan neighborhood in Washington, D.C. at Adams Morgan Day, and the crowd was jeering him, and the big smiley flipped off the whole crowd. He was a crackhead too, Mayor Marion Barry. You may remember he was caught on videotape. It was FBI videotape. They put it in, electrical outlets in a hotel in Washington, D.C., and they brought in a woman from California, Rashida Moore. Now, that soundbite took me by surprise, so I'm going the way back here. Yeah, Rashida Moore was brought into Washington by the FBI to set up Marion Barry. Remember, the GDB set him up, he famously said, and it was true. It was one of the true things that he said. She did set him up. The FBI threatened to put her in prison if she didn't set him up, so she agreed to help the FBI to set up the then Democrat mayor of our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. He did smoke crack on camera. It was FBI-provided crack. It was an FBI-provided crack pipe. It was an FBI-paid-for hotel room. It was wired with all kinds of cameras by the FBI. And Marion Barry, he was just looking for some love. He just wanted some love. He's a man who needed a lot of love, sometimes at strange hours of the night. Yeah, that was Hunter Biden. I digress, just a little trip down memory lane. I was working for CNN at the time, and I was actually on duty the night that story broke, and I was all over it. I've got a bunch of stories I could tell about Marion Barry and Rashida Moore and that FBI sting, but I won't, because there are lots of stories to get to today that are more contemporary than that, more current than that, like Hunter Biden, the crackhead, and there he is. He loves and the guards. He's talking about the guards in Georgetown. I used to hang out at the guards, but not the place next door to the guards where Marion Barry and Hunter Biden smoked crack. The guards is no longer there. Now there's a fancy French restaurant there where the guards used to be, but the guards was a great old Washington wooden bar. It was an old wooden ship. It was an old wooden bar. And it was a fun place to hang out. Had lots of bartenders. I still know some. I still run into a couple of them every now and then. But Hunter Biden bragging about smoking crack with the then mayor of Washington, D.C., or, that might have been after prison, too. It's hard to say. Democrats, it's a crazy political party, isn't it? And they're coming for your kids' genitalia. We've got an update on that today as well. The Washington Post made me laugh and made my best girl laugh a number of times this morning. Not because they deliberately write humorous things, because they don't. But there are a number of stories that, if you're a normal person, remember normal. At the Chris Plant store, we have T-shirts and coffee mugs and things that say simply and eloquently, I believe, remember normal, because someone's going to have to try to bring us back. We're living in kind of a post-civilization era where it's like after the fall of the Roman Empire, and there is a dark age that has descended upon our culture in the United States of America, and to a lesser extent around Western civilization. We're leading the way down the rabbit hole, I've got to say, the United States of America, because the left really has what's the line in Casablanca? To the young couple from Romania, go back to Romania. No, the devil has the people by the throat. And here, the devil has the people by the throat right now. We're in a very weird place. And Hunter Biden is a part of that, and Joe Biden is a part of that. You may recall, and I believe we have an audio actuality to share with you today. of Joseph Robinette Biden, the president of the United States, railing on endlessly about how, the rich have to pay their fair share. Dag nabbit, and hitching his pants up and stuff. And I said, the rich, they're only paying 8%. They're paying 8% in taxes. And, and the plumber pays 240% because he gets everything wrong. And it turns out he must be talking about his own family, because I don't think any rich people actually pay 8%. If they do, it's because of the tax code that people like Joe Biden have written up over the years. But the New York Times today, they used to be a newspaper. Now they're just a Democrat Party press release that comes out every day and helps the party, capital T, capital P, the party, their party. But Hunter Biden, according to the New York Times, he was making about $1.5 million. In fact, I believe more than $1.5 million. And he has no known occupation. He did go to Yale Law School, though, because, don't you know who his dad is? And has he ever worked as a lawyer, or is he just, snort coke and blow paint on cardboard through a straw and then sell them for whatever, $500,000 more than Picasso's? But the New York Times today, in his statement on Tuesday, Mr. Weiss, the media, they keep telling us he's a Trump-nominated U.S. attorney for Delaware. And that's true after the two Democrat senators there pushed him on President Trump, and after Barack Obama made him the acting U.S. attorney and the interim U.S. attorney in Delaware, because, Obama's always looking for Republicans to put in these posts. And the Democrats keep telling us that he's a Republican. But David Weiss, the U.S. attorney in Delaware, in his statement on Tuesday, Mr. Weiss said Mr. Biden, in this case Hunter, the crackhead stripper knocker-upper Biden, had earned more than $1.5 million in each 2017 and 2018. And what was his job again? Well, does he have a resume of any kind? But failed to file the income tax returns despite owing the government more than $100,000 each year. Now, wait a minute. You make $1.5 million and you owe the government $100,000? Is that, maybe Joe Biden was right. Maybe some rich crackheads do only pay 8% in taxes. But again, if they do, it's because people like Joe Biden wrote the tax code. And then now they go outside and scream about what they just did. How dare we have a tax code that I just wrote that requires that rich people only pay 8% in federal income tax. So I've got that story. I want to update you on that, because he's getting, the sweetheart deal, the kind of deal that he gets like from Russian prostitutes. And we know about that. He says he doesn't leave bruises on them, and that they should be happy about that. It's a pretty low standard to use in my experience, but I'm kind of an old-fashioned gentleman when it comes to things like that. And he's probably not. I'm thinking he's probably not. Oh, also, there's this funny thing. The news media keeps reporting they got all these fake talking points, and there are lots of fake talking points that the media is spreading. For example, about David Weiss being a Trump appointee, which is, technically, theoretically, as long as you're happy with a small fraction of the truth, could be arguably true. But in context, it's clearly false and a misrepresentation, a corrupt, deviant misrepresentation. And so we got that. And another one is that Hunter Biden, this is something the news media is spreading, that Hunter Biden became addicted to drugs after his brother Beau died. No, that's a lie. That's not true. But it's something that's out there in all the papers and the news wires, the wire reports and stuff. No, he was actually kicked out of the Navy long before his brother died for repeated cocaine use. And in fact, I think he had to get some kind of congressional loophole to get in the Navy in the first place and be commissioned as a naval officer. They had to use political pull to get him in because he already had drug problems before that. Then he got into the Navy and at least two times caught with the cocaine issue, and he was kicked out of the Navy. And much later, tragically, his brother Beau, who was the good one in the family, died of a brain tumor. And then Joe Biden lies about that it was caused by his service in Iraq because of a burn pit as he served as a lawyer in Iraq. But If they're talking, they're lying. If they're talking, they're lying. That's pretty much the thing with them. The lead story in the Washington Post, which is just another Democrat Party rag, and that their banner under it says the Washington Post, and beneath that it says, "Democracy died in darkness." Democracy died in darkness. They changed it just a little. And actually their slogan is, "It looks like a newspaper, but it's not." That's the thing. But their headline, their lead story, front page, upper right-hand corner, Hunter Biden reaches plea deal in tax, gun case. Jail time unlikely for president's son. Yeah, the key words there. It's, the song "I Ain't No Senator's Son." It's even better with "I Ain't No President's Son," right? But he is. It ain't me. It ain't me. I ain't no president's son. Federal prosecutor says investigation is not over. I reported that yesterday while CNN and MSDNC were lying to their limited number of viewers that, this is it. It's the finale. And they had lawyers on there saying it's all over and all this stuff. And the So I've got updates for you on that because there is plenty on which to update you when it comes to all this stuff. We also have this, and there are a lot of ridiculous stories in the Washington Post. They love abortion more than life itself, don't they? That's a deliberate turn of phrase, I've got to say. And the front page below the fold, an oasis appears in Wyoming abortion desert. It's an abortion desert, Speaking of which, you see there's another classic old grocery store in downtown Baltimore that's going out of business, and it's going to leave a food desert there because too many Democrats come in and rob the place and steal. So the violence, the crime, and the shoplifting, forcing another family-owned grocery store, a neighborhood grocery store, to go out of business and flee Baltimore because of, why, Michael? Democrats. Because of Democrats is the correct answer. Because crime is their bag, baby. They love crime. And an oasis. So here, an oasis appears in Wyoming abortion desert. They call it an abortion desert because you can't, you got to harvest the organs. You got to have a lot of organs. They put them on skewers, wooden skewers, and then put them on the Weber grill. Unlikeliest clinic in U.S. opens in its reddest state. And they're, yay, Michael rowed the boat ashore. This is pretty amazing stuff. And they're very excited on the front page also. Judge blocks Arkansas ban on care for trans youth. It's always the youth. People under the age of 18 in Maryland aren't allowed to go to a tanning salon. You're not allowed to go on school trips without your parents' permission, like to the museum or the zoo. You're not allowed to get a piercing. We remember this father recently was arrested by the police because he pierced his son's ear. Remember this? And because that's illegal, and he's not allowed to do that. But if you want to sever their genitalia, put the genitalia in a mayonnaise jar, leave it on Funk and Wagnall's front porch starting at noon today, then that's okay. A federal judge has struck down a 2021 Arkansas law banning gender-affirming care. That's what they call it, that's child genital mutilation, which they euphemistically refer to as gender-affirming care for transgender youths. What's a youth? And really, it's once you're 18, go ahead, lop it off, knock yourself out. But right now, the Democrats are engaged in all kinds of conspiratorial activities involving, there was another story on this yesterday, altering the genitals and the gender of your children while keeping it a secret from the parents. And again, another gang of teachers caught in the last couple of days conspiring to do precisely that. And the Democrat Party is all in with child genital mutilation, which we used to condemn when it was in Rwanda and, Burundi. I just like to say Burundi. And now it's all the rage, isn't it? Because the Democrats, there's something terribly wrong with them. That's the thing. U.S. District Judge James Moody, yeah, he's Moody, all right, of the Eastern District of Arkansas, ruled the law unconstitutional. So sure, kids have a right to make incredibly bad decisions that will permanently mutilate them genitally and sexually. And the Democrats applaud. Yay! And that means the Washington Post. Isn't it amazing? All right, we've got that. We got a submarine trapped down by the Titanic or someplace. There's a report that there's knocking coming from the inside of the submarine. Isn't that amazing? Got an update on that coming up. I got crime stories for you and other important things from the Supreme Court to the border. 888-630-9625. Hey, Chris here with some exciting news. Now you can listen to me live on the WMAL app. Doesn't matter if you're in your car, in the office, on the go. The WMAL app delivers crystal clear around-the-clock news coverage anywhere with cell service or Wi-Fi. So don't miss a second of your favorite shows. Download the WMAL app today on the Apple App Store or at Google Play Store. Well, the Democrats are doing a heck of a job. Now, I just told you about this story. It's something I like to point out because it's true. It's one of the many ways in which the people of the Washington Post and beyond are corrupt. They're journalistically corrupt, ethically, morally corrupt, fundamentally dishonest people. This piece was written by Ann Brannigan. Ann Brannigan. Judge blocks Arkansas ban on care for trans youth. And they write, federal judge struck down a 2021 Arkansas law banning gender-affirming care. That's right, gender-affirming care for transgender youth. It's always the youth. It's never just the kids. Get to the kids and their genitals. I got a CNN journalist just sentenced to prison for sexually assaulting a 9-year-old repeatedly, convincing mom, and I'll get to that story too, because just good journalism, award-winning journalism. So here it is, the federal judge struck down the Arkansas law, which banned gender-affirming care for transgender youth, forbidding the enforcement of the nation's first law blocking medical treatment, that's what they call it, for transitioning young people. That's children when they say young people. U.S. District Judge James Moody of the Eastern District of Arkansas ruled that the law is unconstitutional. So I looked up Judge James Moody because that's what I do. I'm a very curious person. And I like to note that whenever the judge rules something that the Democrats hate, they go look up the judge and say, oh, sure, he's a Trump appointee. You know, Trump in Florida has a Trump-appointed judge. Well, this judge with the gender-affirming care for children, naturally an Obama appointee, but they didn't mention that. Somehow that didn't come up in their telling of the story. If he had struck it down and it was a Trump judge, then they would have mentioned that. But bum 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 bum. 25 or 6 to 4. Hey, I've got some quick news, quick update for you out of Washington, D.C., which is our nation's capital, and it's kind of going the way of pretty much every other city in America. And for the same reason. I mentioned the landmark Baltimore grocery store that is closing because of, quote, chronic shoplifting and violence. Chronic shoplifting and violence. And it's a family-owned grocery store that's been there for decades, and it serves a neighborhood, and now the neighborhood is going to become what they like to call a food desert. It's going to be a food desert. And the reason is, Democrats keep robbing the place and shoplifting and stealing and pulling knives on the owner's daughter who works there. And he doesn't want his daughter to be murdered over a bag of chips. So he's going to close the place down. And people in the neighborhoods, I'm really bummed. I love Eddie's. They love Eddie's, the neighborhood fixture for decades. The only grocery store in the community. It's a community that will close at the end of the month. And the store owner, Dennis Zorn, he says, it hurts my heart to leave Mount Vernon like this, he said. But he explained that, the shoplifting is so completely out of control and they get robbed all the time. He said, we had 2 knives pulled on us in the last year trying to stop shoplifters, but I don't want to expose my family, not my employees, to that, he said. It's scary, and it's happening more than you think, said Megan Barnes, the store manager at Ann Zorn's daughter. He said, they had knives pulled on them before you really think you can't do too much, she says. You don't know what's going to happen when you try to stop them. So the store's going out of business because, police are on the lookout for the robbers who they say are Democrats. They say they're Democrats because that's the only thing they can say about it. And wearing white shoes, So they're looking for Democrats keep your eyes peeled for Democrats wearing white shoes. That's the kind of description we usually get when they're wearing a hoodie and white shoes. That's it. The Washington, D.C. Police Union. We've got a police department in Washington. In fact, we've got about 17 police departments in Washington, D.C. I don't think that's an exaggeration. I think that's right. The Smithsonian has their own police department. The zoo has their own police department. They're part of the Smithsonian, though. But here's the D.C. Police Union. They have a Twitter account. They haven't been banned just yet. And the D.C. Police Union. D.C. has reached 111 homicides for 2023. All right. Way to go, D.C. Really pulling out all the stops, getting the job done. 111 homicides. Now, the population of Washington, D.C. is under 700,000 people and shrinking because, we're in the pool. So D.C. has reached 111 homicides so far in 2023, and it's June 21st. We're making some headway here. Homicides this year are up 14%. 14% up, not down. Sexual assault up 32%. Send your kids to school in Washington, D.C. A lot of fine colleges and universities here. Carjackings, we got homicides 14 and sex assaults up 32%. Carjackings, however, are up 81%. 81%. And last time I looked, and this was a month ago for sure, there had been 4 carjackings per square mile. I did the math in Washington, D.C. And now they're up even more, so it's going to be more than that. Robberies are up 36%. Violent crime overall is up 23%. And all crimes are up 29%. The Washington, D.C. Police Union says on their Twitter they'll probably be punished by the Democrats running the city who think that the Rothschilds control the weather and the Jews make it snow. That's a Trayon White, right? He's D.C. city council member, made a video of himself talking about how the Jews make it snow in Washington, D.C. because, they want to control people. So that's what the D.C. city council member said. He's a Democrat. And the D.C. Police Union says, after listing all the increases in crime, they say we are short more than 500 cops. The District of Columbia is 61 square miles, about 61 square miles, depending on whether you count the water in the Potomac River and the Anacostia River or not. About 61 square miles. We are short more than 500 cops. And the responsible policing that used to address this has been prohibited by misguided legislation. That is to say that the Democrats, the mayor and the city council, all Democrats, have, how shall I say politely, neutered the police and made the police the bad guys. And I told you a couple of weeks ago, I was down at Rolling Thunder, the annual motorcycle rally, MIA-POW, Veterans Motorcycle Rally, Memorial Day weekend in Washington, D.C. And I was talking to a number of D.C. cops in uniform, not in uniform. And I was told by these police officers that because what the Democrats have done, they really don't pursue criminals anymore. They can't engage in high-speed chases, so they don't. When criminals run away, they really don't chase them because they know that if they catch them, they'll get in trouble. And when they do catch them, they bring them in and the criminals are released before the police finish the paperwork. So there are more criminals on the street, therefore there are more crimes being committed, and the Democrats are anti-police and pro-criminal ipso facto, homicides up 14, sex assault up 32, carjackings up 81, robberies up 36, violent crime up 23. Heck of a job, Democrats. Thanks for all your efforts. Gosh, that's neighborhood grocery stores closing down, and big chain stores leaving cities all over America. San Francisco being one of the leaders in the destruction of their own environment, their own city, with the Whole Foods flagship store leaving, Nordstrom leaving, Nordstrom Rack leaving, the biggest shopping mall, Westfield Mall, leaving downtown San Francisco with all the stores in there. People are fleeing like the place is on fire. And, it has something to do with all the mentally ill, drug-addicted, homeless people defecating on your front doorstep and leaving their spent hypodermic needles on your kids' lunch, what do you call them? Lunchbox. I use the lunchbox. They still, their school backpacks, making everything better. However, in D.C., they have updated one thing. And here's the story. D.C. bars, Washington, D.C. bars. There are many bars in Washington, D.C., and that's good. D.C. bars will be allowed to stay open for 24 hours a day for an entire month this summer. Why, you might ask? 24-hour day bar. What is this, Ireland? Are we becoming Ireland? Is that what's happening here? So D.C. bars will be allowed to stay open 24 hours a day for a month this summer to accommodate the Women's World Cup. Are they big drinkers, are they? There seem to be athletic young women. Are they drink all night? Is that what's going on? They want to get all the athletic young women really drunk at 5 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, because that's thanks to an emergency bill passed by the D.C. Council. And that's the news media's take on it. Thanks to an emergency bill passed by the D.C. Council, bars will be allowed to stay open 24 hours a day because there's a Women's World Cup going on. That makes sense to someone, to the D.C. City Council. And once you say, oh, yeah, that's a good idea, then there's going to be a Men's World Cup. And then, of course, you have to do the same thing there. Otherwise, that would be misandry, right, which is the male version of misogyny. It would be misandry, and you can't do that. And then, of course, you're going to have, the World Series and, of course, the NBA Finals, and you've got college basketball. You've got all kinds of things. So there are all kinds of good reasons to leave the bars open 24 hours a day. And that's just the sporting events. Then what about the inauguration and, Election Day? How about this? How many drunks can Washington, D.C. take? I think probably more than we already have. That's the Democrats are doing a heck of a job.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
That's exactly right. That's Dean Vernon Wormer there. Dean Vernon Wormer. Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life. Son, that's good stuff. All right, so we got that going for us. Listen, I've got a lot to get to, as you might imagine. A great piece in the Washington Times by the great and wonderful Cal Thomas, who's a friend of mine. In a decadent nation, what is inappropriate? What is inappropriate? It's a fun piece I would recommend, and perhaps we should share it. He talks about White House Press Secretary Cringe, as she is known. Her Secret Service code word, her Secret Service code name is Cringe. Her name is Cringe Jean-Pierre. It flows very nicely. Recently used a word that seemed to have disappeared from our anything goes culture. Our lexicon keeps devolving, doesn't it? Asked to comment on the transgender activist Rose Montoya, who posed on social media, you may remember this on the south lawn of the White House, a man who had breast implants and then peeled his shirt off on the south lawn of the White House, next to a woman who's been taking male hormones, had breast removal surgery, and has a big hairy chest and a beard, and they took their shirts off and posed for pictures and posted on social media on the south lawn of the White House. But Cringe was asked to comment on the transgender activist Rose Montoya, posted on social media a video of herself, meaning himself, and two others posing topless for a time at the Pride Month. That's Gay Pride Month. It's not like National Pride Month. celebration on the south lawn of the White House. And Karine Jean-Pierre said the behavior was, quote, simply unacceptable and inappropriate. And Cal Thomas correctly asks the question, how can you say something is inappropriate in the context of everything that's going on today? You're using the word inappropriate and in reference to this? Because if that's inappropriate, let's start talking about the many, many inappropriate things all around us every day. All right, Michael, let's go to the telephones, which we've not done yet. Oh, yeah, today is also Mailbag Day. Today is Mailbag Day, which I'm still working on getting better at. Still working on getting better at that. But we got that coming up, too. And we are at 888-630-9625. Let's go to Matt calling from St. Louis, Missouri. Matthew, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, Chris. Happy summer solstice in deep state Topia.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I got two things for you. One is a Disney remake, and then one is a entrepreneur opportunity, a swap meet kind of thing. So Disney's putting the final touches on a remake of Pinocchio. It's going to be about a transitioning Pinocchio. It's either going to be called Binocchio or Pinocchio Who Knows. And in this one,
Pinocchio Who Knows. Pinocchio Who Knows. Yeah.
In this one, he has to actually lie to become a real boy. I'm making quotation marks with my fingers. And the fairy godmother, instead of having a wand and a flowing gown, a flowing robe, instead she's carrying a scalpel, some hormones, and she's wearing medical scrubs. And then Jiminy Cricket, instead of listening to him, Pinocchio actually eats him because, bugs are the new beef in leftist Topia. So that's the Disney remake. And then, there's match sites like eHarmony.com, and there's
Match.com. Yeah, sure. Yeah, so dating sites.
Yeah, this one would be more like a swap meet, an organ swap meet for transitioners to match them up. So it'd be either etransition.com or it's just junk. And in this, in this one, the guy'd say, "Hey, I'm getting the Johnson lopped off, and looks like you're going to have an addictomy, so maybe we can swap. And you're having your breast disease lopped off, and I need those. So, it'd be a way to match those folks up, and kind of like a big swap meet or barter situation.
We do that with organs right now for kidney transplants and things like that. So I'm surprised it doesn't exist yet. And let me tell you something, Matt. You should probably talk to an attorney about setting up a business like that, because you could be the first one through the door on setting up what could be a very lucrative business because of the level of Democrat Party gender dysphoria that is so pervasive in the United States today. That, swap. Yeah, what is he like? Genitalswap.com. I'll trade you this for that. I got one of these. You want it. Not the old-fashioned way, but, no, just...
Titfortat.com is available?
I don't know. It's Michael suggests titfortat.com could be help you with your business model. Matthew, you're a thinking man. You may not have a future in Hollywood, but then again, it's possible because, they'll take the idea, they'll corrupt it, and turn it into something else. But you could still, make a living on this. I think It's Just Junk. It's Just Junk.com is pretty good too. You might think that's like an old dresser and old socks, but no, it's something else altogether. Matthew, have a wonderful St. Louis day. Say hello to the Arch for me. We've got Hunter Biden update and also John Durham testifying on Capitol Hill even as we speak today, and we will share the good stuff from that hearing with you. Testified in closed session yesterday, open session today. And lots of interesting response about our corrupt society, our two-tiered system of justice, our corrupt Justice Department and FBI and the leadership at least, and the corrupt Biden family. We'll get into that. Also, I want to update you on the submarine trapped below the ocean, way down below the ocean. And let's go to the and it's Mailbag Day, and I have the queries right in front of me. Those are like questions, but a little bit funnier. Let's go to Justin calling from Wilmington, North Carolina. Justin, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, good morning, Chris.
Hey, Justin.
Speaking of equal justice, Hunter Biden should be prosecuted under his father's 1994 crime bill. And for a piece of crack no bigger than the coin Joe Biden was holding on the Senate floor, he should be in prison for 5 years minimum mandatory, and all of his money, assets, accounts, and property forfeited or seized. That's the law that Joe Biden passed for all Americans. His son should have to live by it. And then it's not what they were charged with. It's what they haven't been charged with, being foreign agents of our adversary countries, gaining them access to American businesses, investments, cobalt mines, gas plants. They're foreign agents. And
yes, go ahead.
One more thing.
Uh-huh.
And as he's smoking crack, our loved ones are dying of fentanyl. I just lost a friend last Friday morning. And so.
Yeah. And the open border, and Joe Biden is the best friend the cartels in Mexico and in Colombia and quite honestly, in China ever had. And more than 100,000 Americans, more than 107,000 Americans died last year of fatal drug overdoses, the majority from fentanyl coming out of out of China through Mexico mostly. And now keep in mind that number, and you doubtless know this, Justin, that 107,000, that number is greater than the number of total Americans killed in the Vietnam War and the Korean War combined.
Yes, I do know.
In 1 year, in a single year, from fatal drug overdoses. And what do you hear Joe Biden saying about that and doing about that?
Nothing.
Nothing.
It's killing us.
It's killing us by the hundreds of thousands during his time in office, while millions of people spill across our border illegally. I read a story the other day about Door County, Wisconsin, a peninsula near Green Bay in Lake Michigan. A beautiful place, a wonderful place that is being overrun by illegal aliens. The front page of the Washington Post today has a story, New York City shelter system buckling amid influx of Venezuelans. Why would Venezuelans flee Venezuela? It's a socialist utopia. This is what Bernie Sanders wants to make America.